Where's the girl?
I'm not going to torture you, Mr. Ferris.
Someone has betrayed you. He works for the head of Jordanian intelligence, which means you work for us.
I work for you. CIA. Are you comfortable? Can I make you comfortable?
The story begins in England, where a special forces unit is gearing up to execute a strike mission. The moment they breach a building, a man inside triggers a bomb. The resulting explosion tears through the area, causing widespread destruction and leaving a trail of casualties. We then cut to the United States, where Ed Hoffman is watching news coverage of a deadly blast in a busy part of Manchester. In conversation with his colleagues, he lays out how terrorist groups have evolved their methods into something far more unpredictable and harder to counter. Phone calls and internet traffic are no longer part of their playbook. Everything happens in person, hand-delivered, face-to-face. Instructions passed without any digital footprint. These aren't people looking for a way out through negotiation. From there, the story moves to Iraq, where we're introduced to the main character, Roger, operating as a field agent on the ground. He has a local contact named Bassem, originally an informant, who has become something closer to a genuine friend over time. Bassem brings Roger information about a man named Nisar, who's been connected to a terrorist cell and recently tied to a suicide bombing operation. The catch is that Nisar doesn't actually want to die. He's reached out, looking for a way out. Roger and Bassem set up a meeting with him while the CIA watches the whole thing unfold through satellite surveillance. When they sit down together, Nisar makes his desperation clear. He wants out. He talks about wanting to start over in America, mentioning that he holds a PhD and speaks 5 different languages, clearly hoping that his credentials will make him worth saving. Roger isn't moved by any of it. He points out that educational achievement means nothing in this context. Plenty of people involved in terrorism hold advanced degrees. He tells Nisar to cut the pitch short and hand over something useful. Nisar produces a disk loaded with critical intelligence. Roger gets on the line with his superior, Ed Hoffman, and walks him through what they've found. Someone is willing to flip, and the intelligence on that disk is significant. It points to a terrorist named Salem, and confirms that his network is responsible for recent attacks and is already planning another operation targeting the United Kingdom. The footage on the disk appears to be roughly a week old, which lines up with the timing of the Manchester bombing. Roger also explains that this group has completely cut themselves off from digital communications. They record messages and move them physically through a chain of couriers. Anything truly sensitive is either spoken out loud or written down on paper, sometimes in code. The disk also hints at a future target. Hoffman's call is that Nisar doesn't need to be brought to America. Keeping him under quiet surveillance is enough. But Nisar picks up on the tension around him and starts to unravel, creating a dangerous situation for everyone involved. Roger manages to hold things together long enough to let Nisar walk away in the evening without tipping their hand. What Nisar doesn't realize is that Bassam and Roger are tailing him, and the CIA is tracking him from above. Then a black van rolls up, armed men pour out, and Nisar is shot before being dragged inside. He's still breathing at that point, but Roger makes a brutal call. To keep any information about Nisar's contact with the CIA from falling into the wrong hands, he kills him. Then he and Bassem slip away from the scene. Back on comms, Hoffman warns Roger that his cover may be blown and tells him to lie low for a few days. Roger pushes back. He tells Hoffman he's heading north and isn't going to ground. Hoffman tells him flatly that he's compromised and needs to stop. Roger doesn't listen. Acting on a lead Nisar gave him, he moves toward what could be a terrorist safe house. When he gets there, something catches his eye outside the building. A man cycling through multiple phones, cycling through them deliberately to avoid being traced. Roger decides this is worth pursuing. Before moving in, he tells Bassem plainly, if he gets taken, Bassem shouldn't hesitate to pull the trigger on him. Bassem understands exactly what that means and agrees. Roger changes his appearance and approaches. He takes out one man quietly, then a second, but then he's spotted. Bassem calls in backup and the CIA dispatches 2 helicopters. Roger grabs what materials he can find and moves to get out. Seconds later, a massive explosion rips through the building behind him. The blast alerts the broader network and a chase begins. By the time the CIA helicopters arrive and engage the pursuing vehicles, one car has already been disabled, but another keeps coming. The terrorists in that second vehicle fire an RPG directly at Roger's car. The explosion kills Bassem. Roger survives. CIA agents pull him out and get him to safety. When he comes around, he's at an American military base. A doctor lets him know that surgery removed several metal fragments from his body, and that some of those fragments weren't his. They were bone fragments from someone else. It's a quiet, grim confirmation of what happened to Bassem. Roger's at a base in Qatar. Hoffman reaches out and tells him the disc they recovered has turned out to be a gold mine. phone numbers, details about the network's covert communication methods. The works. Roger isn't thinking about any of that. He wants to know what's going to happen to Bassam's family. The man died for this mission, and someone needs to take responsibility for that. Hoffman brushes it off, essentially saying he doesn't even know who Bassam is. Not long after, Roger is handed a new assignment, this time in Jordan. Hoffman tells him to link up with the Jordanian General Intelligence Directorate, which is running its own operation against the same network. His contact there will be Hani Salem, the head of the agency and a significant figure in Jordanian intelligence. Roger sits down with Hani Salem and lays out a portion of what the CIA has on recent bombings, suggesting it connects to Salem's network and possibly to safe house locations. He explains that he needs surveillance support and that sharing this information is a gesture of good faith, something U.S. intelligence doesn't typically do with outside partners. Hani Salem is taken aback by that, recognizing how unusual it is. Roger makes the point directly. Real cooperation requires real trust. Hani Salem agrees to work with him, but on one non-negotiable condition. Roger follows his rules, and he never lies to him. What Hani doesn't know is that Roger has also been tasked by the CIA to closely monitor Hani Salem's own intelligence operations. From a distance, Roger watches Jordanian intelligence units shadowing individuals linked to Salem's group. Some of them are moving through public spaces in civilian disguise. During this surveillance, a boy catches Roger's attention. He appears to be in contact with one of Salem's operatives. One of Roger's partners mentions that he's operating directly under Hoffman's orders, but something feels off to Roger. When the target senses he's being watched and tries to bolt, Roger tracks him down and kills him. In the struggle, Roger gets attacked by dogs and ends up needing medical treatment, including a rabies shot. At the hospital, he meets a nurse named Aisha, a single mother of Iranian background. Something about her pulls him in immediately, and even though their interaction is brief, it stays with him. Back in the field, the pressure doesn't let up. Roger goes to Hoffman and calls out the lack of coordination across CIA operations in the region. Multiple agents are tripping over each other, overlapping and undermining the mission. Hoffman waves it off. When Roger meets with Hani Salem again, Hani takes him somewhere unexpected, a detention facility where one of Hoffman's operatives is being held and broken down psychologically. Hani's message to Roger is pointed. Go tell Hoffman that his meddling is causing problems, and that Jordanian intelligence won't keep absorbing the interference without consequences. The story then jumps to Amsterdam, where someone retrieves a coded message from a trash bin. It contains details about an upcoming flight and a location, another link in Salem's physical communication chain. Shortly after, a bomb goes off at that location, killing a significant number of people. The attack is all over the news. Roger and his team follow the coverage carefully. Salem and his people watch it too, clearly satisfied with the result. Hani Salem later confirms to Roger that the Amsterdam bombing was the work of Salem's network. He also shares a breakthrough. They've managed to identify one of Salem's operatives inside Jordan. Thanks to the intelligence Roger provided earlier, Hani was able to connect the dots and trace the individual back to a man named Mustafa Karani, someone Hani has known since he was a child. Hani explains that the Amsterdam bombing has been attributed to Salem's group and that what they need now is someone on the inside of the Amman cell. Mustafa is taken out to a remote stretch of desert. Hani sits across from him and doesn't mince words. Cooperate or the things you've done get back to your mother. The threat lands. Mustafa caves and agrees to work with them. Hani lets him go afterward. When Roger passes all of this up the chain to Hoffman, Hoffman books a flight to Jordan. He meets Hani Salem in person and demands access to Mustafa. Hani shuts him down. Hoffman then produces a recent photo of Salem himself and argues that Salem is the real prize. Mustafa is a distraction. He pushes hard, insisting that Mustafa's intelligence has real limits and that Karami needs to be handed over. Roger is increasingly fed up and wants to know why Salem's photograph was kept from him until now. Hoffman sidesteps the question and instead fills in a detail about Salem. His real name is Karim Shams, and he was raised in Syria. Roger is also told in no uncertain terms not to try flipping Mustafa into a double agent. If that comes out, Hani Salem will throw Roger out of the country and the whole operation falls apart. Hoffman promises to leave Mustafa alone. His expression makes clear he has no intention of doing that. Roger's rid turns out to be right. Hoffman quietly deploys his own people to tail Mustafa. Mustafa makes them almost immediately and vanishes. Meanwhile, Roger heads back to the hospital for another rabies injection. Aisha picks up on how he feels about her. After some back and forth, she agrees to spend an evening with him. He tells her she seems to want more than just small talk, and she responds with a warm, playful maybe. Something along the lines of inshallah, let's see how the conversation goes. They have a genuinely good night together, a rare window of something that feels like an ordinary life. Neither of them knows they're being watched. When Roger drops Aisha off at her home, Hani Salem's men intercept him and take him aside. Aisha is left worried about where he's gone. Roger then learns that the safe house he had been monitoring has been torched. Salem's network cleared out before anyone could move on them. The operation is in ruins, and Hani Salem is livid. He's already pulled in one of Hoffman's men who was tailing Mustafa. Hani tells Roger directly he has 12 hours to get out of Jordan. If Hani finds him still in the country after that, he won't be held responsible for what happens to Roger. Roger, in a burst of fury, hits him and then gets out. Back in Washington, Roger walks into Hoffman's office and unloads. Hoffman kept going rogue throughout the mission, and it nearly cost Roger his life. He tells Hoffman that Hani Salem came close to having him killed. Hoffman concedes some responsibility, but pivots immediately to justification. Time is short, Salem's network has to be stopped. Another bombing is coming. Then he lays out a new plan. The idea is to manufacture what looks like a real extremist operation, staged convincingly enough to get Salem's attention and pull him out of hiding. If Salem believes a new group is emerging, he'll want to make contact, and that's when they'll have him. Hoffman signs off on the plan and brings Roger into the next phase. He introduces him to a man named Garland, who immediately makes clear to Roger that he doesn't trust Hoffman. In Garland's view, Hoffman uses people as long as they're convenient and drops them the moment they're not. Even so, Garland agrees to help. Garland hands Roger a target profile. The man's name is Siddiqui Omar, a Jordanian architect. He's completely innocent, but the people who fund his work have ties to terrorist networks, which makes him a useful entry point into Salem's world. Roger flies to Dubai to track Omar down. He goes in posing as a businessman, gets a meeting arranged, and while they sit together, someone in the background quietly photographs Omar. Roger later breaks into Omar's computer system remotely and installs a hidden access point. Using that backdoor, they begin routing money to extremist groups in a way that makes it look like Omar is the one doing it. Hoffman then tells Roger that Hani Salem has summoned him back to Jordan. Roger has to go. When he sits down with Hani again, he apologizes for hitting him. Hani makes it plain that there won't be any more room for errors going forward. After that meeting, Roger finds Aisha. She tells him her sister has been asking about him. As far as the family is concerned, he's become part of their circle. Roger, a little nervous but doing his best, agrees to come over. He even brings sweets the way you would for any traditional family visit. When he arrives, he meets Aisha's sister, and they all sit down to eat together. The conversation flows the way it does in those situations. Where are you from? What do you do? The usual getting-to-know-you questions. Through all of it, Aisha's feelings toward Roger deepen. She starts to picture him as someone who might actually stay. Back on the operational side, Hani Salem gets wind of Omar's situation. Roger and Garland continue working through Omar's system, pushing provocative messages out into the network, the goal being to get those messages moving through enough hands that they eventually reach Salem, drawing him toward the trap. The scene shifts to Turkey, where soldiers are seen moving bodies, all part of staging a believable false crisis. Roger tells Omar to travel to Turkey for a meeting. When Omar shows up, the photographs are taken again, but every single element of this scenario has been engineered. The agencies are building a fake attack narrative piece by piece to make Salem believe something real is happening. A simulated explosion at a military base adds to the illusion, and Roger watches the reaction. It's working. Garland sends messages from Omar's actual email address claiming responsibility, piling on more pressure and deepening the confusion. The trap is set. Now they wait. It doesn't take long before one of Salem's men gets hold of Omar's details and passes them up the chain. Omar starts receiving messages from numbers he doesn't recognize. Congratulations from people he's never met. He's bewildered and frightened, and tries to get out immediately. Salem's network gets to him first. Omar insists desperately that he hasn't done anything, that someone else used him without his knowledge. Salem watches everything through his monitors. In the end, Omar is killed and disposed of, removed from the picture entirely. Roger calls Hoffman, angry and shaken. They were supposed to keep Omar safe, and they didn't. He tells Hoffman he's finished. He wants out. When Roger gets back to his apartment, he finds an envelope. Inside are photographs of him with Aisha. The message is clear and terrifying. He races to her home only to find it completely empty. Aisha and her entire family are gone. He goes straight to Hani Salem, but Hani already knows what happened with Omar. He reminds Roger coldly that he told him never to lie to him, and closes the door on any further cooperation. At that moment, Hoffman also lands in Jordan. Roger goes to him and lays out everything. Aisha has been taken, he'll do whatever it takes to get her back, trade whatever information he has. While they're talking, a message comes in telling Roger to call Aisha. When he does, a voice on the other end gives him a location near the border. He goes. Men put him in a van. They cross the Jordanian border and drive into Syria. After a long, rough journey through remote terrain, they drop him off in the middle of nowhere and drive away. Hoffman is still tracking Roger's signal. After a stretch of time, a convoy of vehicles converges on Roger's location. He's seized and taken away. The distance makes it impossible to identify which vehicle he's in. Hoffman is losing the ability to monitor the situation in real time and starts to accept that Roger may not make it out. Roger is brought to an isolated facility and locked up. Salem's people start filming him. Salem himself appears on screen, relaxed, almost conversational, as though none of this is particularly dramatic to him. A deeper layer of the story then surfaces. Aisha wasn't taken in a simple kidnapping. There's a bigger arrangement behind it. Someone inside the intelligence apparatus sold Roger out. Also present at the facility is Mustafa Karani. Roger puts it together. Mustafa, who was squeezed into cooperation by Hani Salem's people, fed Salem the information that led directly to Roger being here. Mustafa essentially laid the groundwork for this entire setup. Roger says it out loud. Salem's response is to break Roger's fingers one by one on camera. Then he orders his men to prepare for a filmed execution and walks out of the room. At what feels like the last possible moment, Jordanian special forces crash in and take down Salem's men. These forces answer to Hani Salem. Outside, Salem tries to drive away, but even his driver is one of Hani Salem's undercover agents. Salem is caught. Roger is rushed to a hospital. When Hani Salem comes to visit him, the full picture finally clicks into place. Aisha's disappearance wasn't Salem's doing alone. Hani Salem planned the entire sequence of events. He used Omar's situation and Mustafa's role to construct a trap, and he used Aisha's safety as the pressure point that would make Roger act without hesitation, walking straight into Salem's reach without stopping to think. Hani explains quietly that the operation was never what it appeared to be on the surface. Roger was a piece on a board that Hani was moving. Hani wraps up the conversation with something close to calm satisfaction. Roger is alive, Aisha is safe, and Salem is in custody. As far as Hani is concerned, that's a win. Later, Hoffman offers Roger a desk job at headquarters. Roger turns it down without much deliberation. He's done with work built on layers of manipulation. He walks away. In the film's final stretch, Roger spots Aisha from across the street, watching her with her family for a quiet moment. He decides to bring her sweets. Eventually, Hoffman gives the order to pull satellite surveillance off Roger entirely, marking the official end of his connection to the CIA. Roger no longer works for them, and with that, the story closes out. Hope you enjoyed the recap, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this one.